Are the Niners going extra cheap in the secondary? I mean, like, they're going to potentially move on from Tart and K1 to replace them with Hufanga and Lenore? 2 fifth-round picks from last year? That seems ambitious.
It seems like something the 49ers could attempt to do, trying to replace Jaquiski Tart by, hey, we'll have an open camp competition. We've got Talanoa Hufanga and more, and they'll come in, and one of the two, Hufanga has got a great nose for the ball. He's an elite special teamer. Moore is so athletic. Between those two, one of them will really claim the job and get cheap there, and then say to themselves, well, we have our starting duo at the outside. So as long as we can make do at the nickel, we'll be okay. We'll roll with E-Man and Ambry Thomas outside, and maybe, have Lenore there at the nickel and prioritize everything else. And that would match with what the 49ers have said to us continually about what they're willing to spend for the secondary versus the pass rush in their defense. To me, this would be a critical error by the 49ers. It would be akin to going into the season, penciling in Akello Witherspoon to start after that season where he flashed a little something. It would be counting on a next leap by several players without significant evidence that that's actually going to happen. To me, it would be a bit of insanity to get so cheap at these positions. I'm okay with going the value route when exploring free agency, but if they just ignore it in its entirety and add late round draft picks to fill out those rooms, I will be very disappointed.
I've been thinking for years about like how to build teams and which positions to invest in and which ones you spend on, which ones you draft. I think really it depends on your coaching staff. If you have Chris Kosarick, do you really need to spend big investments on D-line? Or are you uniquely positioned to get guys off the scrap heap? You know what I mean? Like guys who were third-round picks that busted like Arden Key, and boom, they're good for you. I think the Niners, you can go cheap on the D-line. Now, they have Nick Bosa that helps too, but really, they've shown that they can get by with spare parts on the D-line. If they had a secondary coach like that, great. You could do it too. And when Fangio was here, he had Ed Donatel as the DB coach. He did it. I mean, they brought in freaking Carlos Rogers, scrap heap. No one wanted him. Got him going. I mean, they brought in Dante Whitner. First-round pick, but it was a huge bust for Buffalo. I don't know if you remember, brought him in, made him a good player, used him correctly. Tremaine Brock. Who the hell was Tremaine Brock? Undrafted free agent, became a really good player. Parrish Cox, over and over again. So they could do it. It depends on if you have the position coach to pull it off. They have it at running back. They have it at D-line. I don't think they have it at DB coach. I'm not saying Corey Unland's bad, but you got to be really good to pull that off. I haven't seen that.
I would agree. To me, I haven't seen that type of development by the 49ers in the secondary. They certainly have it at other positions. If they had brought back Fangio as an assistant, I would have felt better about going a little cheap at that. But to me, I mean, you've got to make some investments there. You have to. And to me, you've got to look at the safety market and realize that it's actually pretty robust. So the 49ers can get value without getting cheap, in my mind. So they can still be strategic in spending fewer dollars at this position without making the mistake of going the extreme value shopper route of getting all their groceries at the dollar store.
It just seems to me like if you are the kind of team that has Chris Kosarick and you don't have to spend a ton on, and the Niners do spend a lot of their D-line, but you don't have to. Like they could be spending more on their secondary. If you're going to spend on anything in the defense, it should be that. Because, I mean, you develop linebackers easily. Who the hell is Azeez Al-Shaair? Oh, he's a freaking baller that you got out of nowhere that no one else wanted, but you made him good. Same with Dre Greenlaw. Same with Fred Warner, honestly. Third-round pick. No one else wanted him like that. So you can do it at linebacker. You can do it at D-line. Maybe you should be spending in the secondary as opposed to trying to see if maybe your fifth-round picks can get it done. Like, yeah, on D-line, I'd trust it. At that linebacker, I'd trust it, but I haven't seen the track record there. I don't trust it at secondary. I don't trust it on the offensive line. I mean, you got to know what you can develop.
Yeah, I would find myself more in the middle of still prioritizing because I think along the defensive line, I give Chris Koserick credit for two things, not just what you're mentioning there as far as finding value and getting those cast-offs and reclamation projects and building them back up. I do think Kyle Shanahan's correct when he says one of the most important things a coach can do is get your A players to play
Sure.
like A players
Sure.
consistently.
And he
And
does that.
so I do think, yeah, Chris Koserick deserves that credit for getting Nick Bosa and other first round draft picks to really perform at that level. But I wouldn't go overboard in then getting extremely cheap at the defensive back position. And so to me, it's somewhere in the middle there. The Niners will continue to spend most of their assets along the defensive line, in my mind. That's what the evidence points to in years past. That's what they've said to us over and over again. I predict that will be the case again, that they attempt to sign Arden Key, and that's going to cost them considerable money. They're going to invest in DJ Jones to shore up that run game, and that's going to cost them considerable money. I see them having to go with those B-level, average, more not journeymen, but closer to journeymen defensive backs to fill out the rest of that secondary.
I just feel like we've seen, Nick Bosa's great, but he got hurt in the first half against Dallas. The Niners' second pass rush might have been even better in the second half. Not to say that Bosa isn't important, but they can perform without him.
It's true.
And like what we've seen is it's more important to have wave after wave depth
Yes.
of pass rushers than one great guy. You can triple team a Nick Bosa, but once the rest of the guys are getting one-on-ones and they win, now you got something. And I think what the Niners have shown is they can go 8 deep with pass rushers, even if you took away one elite one. They would still have 7, 8 good ones, and that's very hard to deal with. I think what they have in the secondary is a lot of guys who are solid but can be isolated by elite offenses, elite receivers, and can ultimately be not good enough. I don't know. It seems like the Niners might want to reconsider and maybe start putting a little bit of emphasis, a little money investment into the secondary.
And very little depth. I mean, it took nary a single injury to bring in Josh Norman or Dante Johnson, right? And credit to
And they play
Dante Johnson
100%
for
of the snaps
performing.
because they're in the secondary. It's not like on the D line where
Right.
if you have a great coach like Koserick and you have you have platoons up and down the line, they're run defenders, your pass rushers. You can go money ball all the way. In the secondary, if you're playing, you're out there 100% of the time, unless you're the nickel guy, and then you're out there 75% of the time. I mean, they can't hide you.
No, you're
They can't
exposed.
hide you. Yeah, so they won't listen to us, though, Rob.